All right, so I'll get going. My name is Gabe Verduzco, and I'll be talking about Western invasive tree-boring insects. Uh, I'll start off with a safety brief. Make sure you check your surroundings for any trip hazards. Check your weather forecast. Here in California, we've had quite a bit of rain. And then if you are in your vehicle, please be parked and in a safe location. Again, my name is Gabe Verduzco. I'm an arborologist for Rainbow Ecoscience. I'm almost about a year in. I have my certifications as a arborist, QAC, and then I went to California State University of Fresno, studied plant science there. And my experiences include I worked at a USDA doing agriculture research there, working with plant pathologists, entomologists, and then went on to work at a botanic garden in the Bay Area. And then working previously to this, working with the cooperative extension here in Orange County with invasive species. Quick housekeeping slide. So type your question into the Q&A box using your control panel. We'll answer questions at the end of the presentation. This webinar is being recorded and a link will be sent out after the webinar. This webinar is worth 1 ISA CEU. And then if you did not enter your ISA number during registration, please type that into the Q&A. Again, Rainbow Ecoscience. We have averaged 1,200 tree and landscape tech support calls per year. We have had over 150, or averaged 150 unique research trials per year. And then my favorite values for our company are that we are science-based, and then I like that we are honest, and then our ongoing improvement. So an overview for today, I'm going to be talking about Mediterranean oak borer, gold-spotted oak borer, shothole borer, and then South American palm weevil. We will have a future webinar on emerald ash borer, and that's going to be on February 20th. If that interests anyone, to sign up for that, and also see we do have many other webinars coming up in the year. So why are we worried about these insects? Why are we worried about these invasive insects that are impacting our trees? So our trees here have no defense compounds, no defense compared to where they are in their native range, right? So an invasive comes in, our trees are just not used to them. So back in their native range, there's the trees, and those insects have co-evolved to basically exist together. Here, no defenses, no predators, so that can cause loss of wildlife habitat and loss of food supply. That's going to increase our wildfire risks. And then, our trees, we've been through, across the state and across the West, we've gone through quite a few drought years. So the trees are already under drought stress, disturbance stressors. So generally, trees that are weaker are going to be easier targets for these invasive pests. And then economic losses, right? So trees provide cleaner air, they provide so much biodiversity, shade, they decrease our temperatures, they improve our overall health, and then they add value to our properties. So going into the Mediterranean oak borer, the background about this insect is it is an ambrosia beetle, and that is native to Europe. And that was discovered in Northern California, in Calistoga, in 2019. And I believe it was first tracked in 2017, but wasn't actually identified until 2019. And that was suspected that came in through into the wine regions, and then the beetle lived in those oak barrels. So that's basically came in on an oak barrel, and then right into that wine industry. So it's unfortunate. So now its distribution is through Oregon, Napa, Sonoma, Lake, and Sacramento counties, and then it does prefer weakened and drought-stressed trees. So a bit on biology. So it is about the size of if you would click a mechanical pencil, it's about the size of a pencil lead, and that's about 3 millimeters long. And then the females have about 2 or more generations per year, and then they'll develop into adults within 5 to 8 weeks. And what with these beetles is they can reproduce so fast because they can mate with one another. So the siblings can mate with one another. Females can lay unfertilized eggs that become males, and then they can mate to create fertilized eggs. So and then how they feed themselves is they carry a fungus and special mouth parts. So that fungus feeds the adults and it feeds the larvae, and that's that fusarium that they carry. And then some signs and symptoms. How are you going to identify this? So you'll see tunneling. If you were to slice a tree in half, or you find a broken limb, you're going to see tunneling. There are similar other pests that look close and look identical, but again, you're going to look for tunneling in that xylem. And then the gallers are trellis-like, so they're crowded, they're intersecting. They're going to be so then you're going to see frass, and that's the sawdust that they when they're burrowing in, that's that they push out from those galleries. And then you could also see cracks or oozing sap. And then mature trees may show dieback in the top of the canopy. If anyone's familiar with shothole borer, it's its relative. So shothole borer, generally you'll see it around the trunk of the tree. I'm going to talk more on that. But what's interesting about the Mediterranean oak borer is that you'll see dieback in the top of the canopy. They like to attack from the top first, so might be a little too late before you actually see it until you see that dieback. So they really like those uppermost limbs that are about 6 to 8 inches in width. And then they work their way down the tree. So once the infestation continues to grow, they start from the top and then work their way down. And then their favorite hosts are the valley oak, the blue oak, white oak, and then possibly coast live oak. This tree right here, this picture is a valley oak. I was in Sonoma County working with a client, and we were doing a preventative here. So there was a nearby infestation in the area with the Mediterranean oak borer. And so we went out and did a trunk injection on this tree to provide 2 years to prevent the beetle from infesting that tree. So beautiful tree on this property, beautiful trees, lots of beautiful valley oaks in this tree. So hopefully we're able to save those for many more years to come. And then just to want to show you the host range for valley oaks. So valley oaks right now, so the Mediterranean oak borer is in Northern California, but you can see that they have a clear pathway all the way down the Sierra Nevadas. They have the potential to move into the Bay Area and then down into the Central Coast. And then there's valley oaks as far north going into just at the north end of Southern California. So potential to move pretty far. And then here's the white oak, and that range moves from Northern California. It's already in Oregon, so it has the potential to move. You can see all the way up into Washington, and it's going to be devastating. So how are we going to manage the Mediterranean oak borer? So again, they do prefer weakened trees. So keeping your trees healthy. If we are in those drought years, you might want to consider deep watering, adding some mulch, and then there is paclobutrazol. So a tree growth regulator a tree growth regulator will help. There's a lot of secondary benefits that you can get from tree growth regulators, and so that may be an option for your cultural control. And then you can provide a trunk injection. So if you're looking for chemical control, there are trunk injections, as I said, right? You can use it as a preventative. I was injecting some valley oaks again in NorCal, so we can protect them for up to 2 years. And then you can also, with that trunk injection, you want to add propiconazole. So propiconazole is a fungicide, and that fungicide is also going to kill the fungus. And then that insecticide, emamectin benzoate, is going to kill the bugs. So you need both to do when you are performing that trunk injection. Preventative, you just need that emamectin benzoate alone. And then you can do a trunk and limb spray with the Mediterranean oak borer, though it is higher up, so that might be a little bit more challenging. And then if your infestations do get high enough, you might want to consider removing that tree. Again, if you do perform at removal, that's preventing and saving all your other trees in the surrounding area. So, and what research has shown, if you do chip that tree down, you want to make sure it's less than 1 inch, and that's going to ensure that you get a higher success of that beetle dying. And it's pretty high. I believe it's about 98, 99% successful of killing almost every beetle when you do chip. And then you do not want to move firewood. It's very important. That's how the spread of these beetles are moving so much more faster, is moving firewood. Gold-spotted oak borer, and a bit about its background. So this gold-spotted oak borer is actually native to Arizona, so it's very close by, and it's killed tens of thousands of mature oak trees here in Southern California. And again, that's getting further distributed by moving infested wood. And then how to identify it is you're going to see those 3 distinct orange spots on the wings. And then these beetles, the gold-spotted oak borer, beetles prefer drought-stricken trees. So the biology, they have a single generation per year. And then these adult females lay eggs on the trees. And then it's very, very small. It's really hard to see them. And then you're going to want to then eventually so in 2 weeks, they'll bore in through the outer bark into that phloem. And then they create these galleries with no real pattern. I'll show you a picture on that. But that's essentially what those galleries and that boring is essentially girdling that tree. So it's preventing nutrient uptake, and nutrients and water being taken up through that xylem and phloem, and then back down. It essentially girdles the tree and dies. So. And then signs and symptoms. So how are you going to identify the gold-spotted oak borer? So one of the key ways to identify this is actually you got to get really close to that bark of the tree, that trunk, and you're going to look for a D-shaped exit hole. So you can see this image on the right. It's a capital D-shaped exit hole that you're going to want to look for. There are going to be lookalikes, but it's very distinct D-shape, and that's usually around the trunk. And once infestations do increase, you tend to see it throughout the trunk and then lower limbs of the tree. So sometimes you will see woodpecker foraging and or dark colored wet staining and red bleeding. And then one of the best ways, and I think just being proactive as an arborist, is looking for crown thinning, dieback. And that's how I was able to spot this tree out here when I was doing a survey. I just noticed in this whole field of oaks, coast live oaks, I noticed this one just stood out. I saw the dieback, looked weakened. You can see it just does not look as healthy. So that's just a key indicator to go check it out. And it might not even be gold-spotted oak borer. It could be something totally else. Maybe it's drought related. So just being proactive and going and checking the trees is just one of the easiest steps to helping save it. So they do prefer coast live oaks. That's one of their favorite trees, and then black oak and canyon live oak. So the range for coast live oak, again, it has a clear pathway all the way up to Northern California. So right now it is only in Southern California, and it is moving north. So as you can see, it's just that pathway is pretty long there. So how can you manage the gold-spotted oak borer? So right now, again, they prefer those weakened trees. So keeping your trees healthy with deep watering, introducing mulch, and then there is those tree growth regulators, as I mentioned. And then if you do want to provide a treatment and looking to treat your trees, what research has shown that if you want to treat high value trees, it depends on your situation, right? Depending on the client, where you're at. If you do want to do a trunk injection, Look for 1 to 30 exit holes, and with that you can do emamectin benzoate, and that's armectinite, every 2 years. And then you could provide a soil application, and that's generally with Zytect, and that's fall or early spring. Or you could do a soil or bark application with Transect. So those are some options. Again, if there is 1 to 30 exit holes, you can save the tree. If it's 40, 50, you can give it a shot, right? These trees have taken hundreds of years to grow. Look at trying it, but what research has shown, once you get over 30 exit holes, of those D-shaped exit holes around that trunk of the tree pretty much, there's dieback, there could be branch failure, and they can easily then spread to other trees. So looking at a removal is another option. So removing that tree, chipping to less than 1 inch, and then do not move that firewood. So, oh, and then on the right here, this is just, I scraped away a little bit at that D-shaped exit hole, and then you can see the gallery right there. It's just no specific pattern to those. And then here's a nice stand of oaks, coast live oaks, that I was out doing a survey, and this in the center here, these oaks were about 25 to 30 dBH, just to give you a reference. And then they were completely covered with gold spotted oak borer. And now you can see when they're removed, it's devastating and sad. And could have saved them, would have found it earlier, but didn't. And then here's a site where someone's moving firewood. So these all this material right here at the bottom of the screen is infested with gold spotted oak borer, built up a little bunch of wood material in that area, and then that coast live oak right behind it got infested and is dead now and hazardous and needs to be removed. So it's unfortunate. So going into shothole borer, which is another ambrosia beetle. This one is from native to Southeast Asia, and they also carry that fusarium in those special mouth parts. That's what they feed on, and the larvae feed on. And Mediterranean oak borer, what's nice is they only like a few species, right? They like a few oaks, but with the shothole borer, they will attack almost everything, it seems. When infestations get high enough, you'll see them try. I've seen them attempt to attack eucalyptus. So they like over 260 plant species. So that fusarium is actually what disrupts the flow of water and nutrients up that and through that vascular tissue, and that can lead to tree death and branch dieback, along with those galleries that they create. And so this image on the right is so you'll see, this is a sycamore, and you'll see staining in those distinct shot holes. So it's first discovered in 2012 in Los Angeles, and it is now spread throughout Orange County, San Diego, Riverside, San Bernardino, Ventura, and San Luis Obispo. And it was up until recently, it was found as far north as Santa Barbara County. But actually last year in November of 2023, at the end of the year, I actually found it in San Jose. So, and that has just been confirmed. So it's now in Northern California. So be interesting to see what different trees that they can attempt to attack, and or if there are any newer hosts for it. So, and then a little biology. So again, they bore tunnels, and those are we call those galleries, into those trees. That's where they live most of their life, adults and females. Females are generally the only ones that are outside of the tree that you'll find, and those are once they're outside, they fly to the other trees and then continue their destruction. So they are about the size of a sesame seed, and then again, they reproduce so fast, and I've seen trees die within months because they can mate with each other, and then it's so how to spot it. So signs and symptoms: you're going to see that distinct shot hole, and it's about the size of a ballpoint tip pen. So if you're out in the field or you're at a homeowners or HOA or any site, if you have a ballpoint pen and take it up to that hole, they're about the same size, and that ballpoint tip pen will fit right in that hole. So it's a great way to see if you have shothole borer. And then sometimes you can see the abdomen of the female sticking out of the hole. And then, so trees, depending on your tree species, you're going to have different symptoms. So there might be, one tree might have staining. If you're looking at it, maybe an oak, you're going to see white frass or white powdery exudate. So it just depends. So again, around that entry hole, look for dark, wet staining. You might find gumming, white or yellow powdery exudate, and then you'll see key indicators that frass, which resembles sawdust. So and then if you do scrape away at the bark or want to, you can actually see that fusarium around that shot hole, that entry hole, and it will be darker in color. So some of its favorite, there's right now in California, there's about 70 reproductive hosts. 18 of those are California native species. Some of the shot hole's favorite species here I found in Southern California is box elder, California sycamore, London plains, or willows, sweet gum, white alder, post live oaks, and cottonwood. So images on the right are just some different symptoms and signs you'll see. So the top's staining, and then there's gumming, and then that I've had an image in avocado. There's that J. You'll see this white powder exudate. So just for sycamore, I wanted to put up the host range. So again, that is all along the central, all along the coast up into Bay Area, Northern California, and then while we can continue to move all the way down into the northern end of Baja. So yeah, there's that. And then how have we been managing shot hole? So what's interesting with the shot hole borer, they do actually prefer healthier trees. So a good thing that I've seen down in Southern California is having a diverse palette of trees. So a lot of the parks here lost a lot of trees because they just planted sycamores, coast live oaks. So avoid those monocultures. Look to plant diverse species, and then I've also seen you can actually, if it's just infested in a branch, you can just prune out a branch. Generally, they'll attack the trunk first, opposite of that Mediterranean oak borer. But sometimes you will find just a infestation in the branch. You can just prune that and remove that. And what the cooperative extension has found, they have said that if there is a low infestation, the trees have the ability to compartmentalize. So they do have the ability to heal and fight that beetle off. And so you can just leave it alone. But again, that's dependent on your situation. So maybe your client doesn't want to see the tree get worse. If there's a couple active hits on that tree, go ahead and treat it. Or if you want to do a preventative, if like in San Jose where it's newly found, right? I would think, if you want to have a 2-year preventative measure and it's nearby, look, maybe you do want to treat that low infestation. So it just depends on your situation. And then if it does get into 50 to 150 active holes around that trunk and in the branches, look to actually perform a treatment. And what I've seen most effective is the trunk injection. The image on the right here is our Q-Connect, and I was injecting around that tree. And what's nice about the Q-Connect, it's you can expand how many ports you want into that tissue. So I think this was a 20 to 30 DBH tree, but again, you could add 10 Ts, 15 Ts, all the way around to evenly distribute that emamectin benzoate around the tree. So with that trunk injection, you could do mectinite, and then you want to add again that fungicide, which is that propofol. So and then if you don't want to do an injection, you can do a trunk spray, and that's with bifenthrin. And what we've seen, if you do have more than 150 active exit holes and you have dieback in the canopy, the tree becomes pretty hazardous at that point, especially for climbers, I've been hearing. So you really want to be careful. You do need to consider removing that at that point, but again, you need to be very careful. Chipping to less than 1 inch provides a very high success of killing that beetle. And so going into South American palm weevil. So a little bit about the South American palm weevil. It was first detected by trapping in 2011, and that was in San Ysidro. And it is native to Mexico, South and Central America, and it is a threat to our native and non-native palm species. There is only one California native palm, and but its favorite is that Canary Island date palm, and then there is concern for our edible date palm industry. And a little bit on its biology. So it begins its adult life looking for a mate, and it flies to the palms to feed and lay its eggs. Those eggs are laid on top of the palm crown, and they're pearly white and oval shape. And those larvae are actually really, really big. If you've ever seen one, so they can be 1 inch to 5 inches, but they're pretty gross looking. They're in that bottom image there. And so they will, that's what, so that larvae, they bore into the stem of the palm, into that, where that active tissue is growing. And that's what eventually will kill those trees. So, so they'll live, and then they feed also on that decaying, live and decaying tissue. So the pupal stage takes about 2 to 3 weeks, and they create these cocoons, and that's that on the far right there. They create these cocoons out of fibrous bundles of the palm, and until they become an adult. Those females can lay between 120 to 150 eggs in a 30-day span. And what we're seeing out in the field, it only takes about 30 larvae to kill a healthy, mature sized palm. So it destroys that apical growth by feeding on that tissue in that crown. So I was just at a South American palm weevil conference down in San Diego, and Dr. Hoddle had put a South American palm weevil on the spin wheel and flew it and let them fly. And so he found that they can fly on average 25 miles. So, and then he was also saying he found one that was like he called it a super flyer or super spreader, but that one went on for over 100 miles. It flew, had the ability to fly. So they can, if they want to find food, can fly pretty far. They seem to be pretty lazy in the sense that they will just want to go from one tree to the next tree. So that is good, but they can fly pretty far, and that's a little worrisome. So signs and symptoms. So you're going to see yellowing foliage, flattening of the crown. Right here on the image on the right, you see that flattening of the crown is very distinct. This was down in San Diego, near Point Loma University. I went and found this one and got some pictures. And then you can look at the base of that trunk and look for pupal cases. And then you're going to also see notching on newly emerging fronds. So that new growth should look nice and uniform. You can see with this new growth here emerging, it's just has that notching, and that's from the feeding from the larvae. So it doesn't look as nice and uniform. And again, its hosts, it really likes that Canary Island date palm and date palms, coconut, African oil palm, acacia, sago, fan palm, and our king, queens, and royals. There is some others to add to that list. I think some of the folks that are actively treating for South American palm weevil have seen it attack some other palms. And so its host range for that date palm, this is just the host range for the Canary Island date palm, but you can see we have it all along our Mediterranean region in California, moving into the desert regions, and then again, all along the south end, and then into Florida, and it's in Hawaii. Make its way there. And then again, we do have it only in Southern California, but it was found recently as far north as I just heard it was at the south end of Camp Pendleton. So there is a bit of a gap in Camp Pendleton being just completely wilderness. So hopefully that provides a bit of protection for some years, but it is making its way north. So how are we going to manage the South American palm weevil? So there is cultural control options. You obviously want to keep your palms, you want to keep your Canary Island date palms healthy. And then that spread can be delayed if you do find an infested tree. You want to basically remove that Canary Island date palm. And then you want to chip and bury infested material, and then keeping them healthy, and then reducing pruning activity. From what science is showing, that they are attracted to pruning wounds or again those declining trees that they are more attracted to. And then right now, as far as treatment, the industry best right now, what most are performing down in SoCal is a crown and a soil drench. So that they're spraying onto the crown, Transtec, and then that soil drench of Zytec. So that's that imidacloprid and dinotecuron. And right now it's every 3 to 4 months. So you're going to have to continue that treatment basically for the life of the tree. And what I've seen actually is if you do, so I've seen where a South American palm weevil came in, tree started declining, attacking the tree, declining. They performed that crown drench, that soil drench, were able to rehabilitate that tree and bring it back to full life. That beetle died, right? So then I believe that clients, wanted to stop. Their tree was fine. They thought it was healthy, back to normal. But what actually happened was, since they stopped treating that tree, South American palm weevil then came back. I don't know if it was a year later or a few years later, but then that palm eventually died. So came back, killed the tree. And so you do need to kind of continue to look to continue to treat. There are other options. So you can do a trunk spray. There's trunk injections. You can use mectinite. But what others are saying, the other options are more effective. It's going to depend on your situation, right? Maybe you don't have the tools to spray up on top of the crown, and you have a good amount of area around this, good soil around that tree, or maybe there's completely solid cement around that, Canary Island date palm. Maybe you can only do a crown drench. So it's going to depend on your situation or what your client needs. So again, as I was saying, it is a matter of time before it moves from San Diego County to Orange County. So here's this image on the left I took. This is down in Dana Point, but there's a street with about side by side this monoculture of Canary Island date palms. There's about, a couple hundred street line Canary Island date palms. So good source of food there for them. I think so. The bottom right image is at San Onofre State Beach. I feel like if it was to make it here eventually, that might be the first location. So every time I drive by there, I'm always looking off you can see them off the freeway. So I feel like if it is at the north end of Oceanside, and that's Camp Pendleton area, if it does fly over, I was like, okay, this might be one of the first locations it attacks. And then here at the top right image is in Irvine. It's just another monoculture of our Canary Island date palms, and that can continue north all the way up into LA County, continue on. So that's what I have for you today. Did talk a lot faster than I wanted to. Again, then we have more benefits for you. We offer tech support, Rainbow. We do also training. We have e-learning. So again, be on the lookout for more webinars this year. And then I do have that ISA CEU code for you. If you did not add your ISA CEU number when you register, please place that your first and last name and your ISA number in the chat. So make sure everyone gets that. And then let's see if there was any questions. Does ambrosia beetle have a range in the east? I haven't heard. So I haven't heard of it being on the eastern part of the U.S. So not that I know of it being on the east yet. And then, does propiconazole kill off the fungal infection in the tree, or does it only prevent the further growth of the fungal tissue? So propiconazole will kill off the fungal infection, yes. So, and then does it only prevent the further growth of the, does it prevent? So yeah, so propiconazole is essentially going to kill off all the fungus inside that tree. So you're killing it. So that additionally kills their food source, right? So that fungus dies, that beetle can no longer live, and then it's a double with the insecticide. You're killing the beetle, so it's much more effective than just doing emamectin benzoate. And then let's see. Says someone said they do have ambrosia beetle in western. Let's see, is that North Carolina? That's no, that's not good. Dang. And then, okay, I think there's no more questions. Oh wait, let's see. There's can you discuss the 3 to 4 month recommendation of Zytec as a soil drench? I thought Zytec lasted for at least a year. So Kathy, I think what the so I'm speaking on behalf of what's being done in Southern California, and folks are seeing that they were doing originally 6 months, but then they were finding the beetle was, I don't know, they're finding it more effective now every 3 to 4 months essentially. So you want to follow up with me on that later, we can discuss that more. I'll put up my email again. And then, do you mix propiconazole and mectinite in your bottle before injecting? So Eric, so yes, so when you are treating for that fungus and the beetle, you can mix that mectinite and propiconazole before injecting. So you can mix the two together. The rates we're seeing for those two is if you do have, it depends on your infestation or if you want to do a preventative, but what we're seeing is I believe it's 10 mils per dBH of the mectinite, and then it was either 5 mils or 10 mils of propiconazole per dBH. So I'd have to double check on that. And then there are different types of ambrosia beetles, aren't there? Let's see. Can you use prop at the same time as emamectin? Yes, John, you can. And okay. So Timothy said, yes, they do have ambrosia beetles in the east, and we don't want them to come here. So looks like that's all in the chat. If anybody wants to email me directly on any further questions, but again, thank you for tuning in. This was my first one and the first of the year for rainbows. So thank you. And next week, I'm also talking about some scale. So thank you all for joining in.